Hey you guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, whichever side of the screen that I have it on, as well as the bell. So anytime any new content is uploaded, you will be the first to know about it, you guys. But this is really just a follow-up to my previous video. And again, you guys can also check out Neville Goddard, listen to some of his lectures, very fascinating stuff. There's also other content that you guys can find on this very subject. But again, you guys already know I always love to share little tidbits, things that I learned, share it with you guys. We're all on this journey together. But there is a very specific language when it comes to time collapse or remembrance. Okay. And we're going to get into what that specific language is. But just to kind of give you guys, just for those of you all who maybe didn't check out the previous video, just to kind of sum it up really quickly. And I will put up a diagram. Hopefully it makes it a little bit more clear, but I'll do my best to explain. In the 2D, we're talking about things more so like on a granular level, right? Molecules, atoms, right? Then when we go to 3D, which is basically what we see around us, okay, we're in the 3D. 4D is more creativity, thinking, the mind, right? And then the 5D is getting off into like the quantum field where, you know, supposedly everything exists at once. Every possible version, every possible outcome of you, right? You as the main character. And we talked about this in previous videos, right? The library full of books on the shelf, different stories. You as the main character in each and every one of them. Supposedly in the 5D, every last one of those books exists and they're all playing out all at once, right? Beginning to end, they're already written. So when we talk about the whole time collapse, right, and we talked about how time is not really linear like we think, right, from, you know, 1 to 100, A to Z, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's more so stacked, right? And we talked about that in the previous video, but there is a specific language that goes with that whole time collapse. So the idea of it is for you to, it's not just visualization, it's a mixture of visualization with a twist, right? So with the time collapse is more so you visualizing a scene, in whatever this dream realized manifestation, whatever this higher version of you looks like, however he or she is living, whatever they're doing. You visualize a scene, and then from that scene, you picture yourself remembering back, okay? And you could also actually speak this as well, okay? But it's more so like you visualizing yourself in a given scene, and then you are remembering back on getting up to that point, if that makes sense. So you could actually put this here in a multitude of different like scenarios, but basically like, let's just say for a university, okay, let's just say you want to get into a certain university and that is your goal. That is your manifestation. The higher version of you is doing very well at this Ivy League university, working on whatever XYZ degree, right? But so the way you would do this technique with that as an example is like maybe you picture yourself 6 months in, maybe a year into being at that university. And from whatever that scene is, maybe you are sitting in a park or having coffee, talking with a friend, and you are reflecting back on the day you got that acceptance letter. Okay, and the move that, you know, moving from your hometown to that university on campus, and you're talking that over with someone and they're like, oh yeah, I remember when you told me you got in, and I'm like, yay, we both got in, da da da. You know, like, so it's like a whole entire scene, but it's like you from that point remembering backwards, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But it's a very specific language. So we're going to get into more of like what that language sounds like. But it's very fascinating stuff, you guys, you know. Then you may wonder to yourself, like, okay, so is this like more so like self-deception? You're just making up some stuff. Supposedly not. That's not the case, because in the quantum field where everything exists and exists simultaneously, stories already written from beginning to end, you are basically assuming one of those storylines, right? Maybe the storyline where you do get in, the storyline where you are hired, the storyline where your business does take off, the storyline where you're prosperous, healthy, happy, whatever that storyline is that you're assuming, you're basically pulling that down. But it does take time, because they say that the 3D, which is what we're in, right? You're pulling it from the 5D, but we're in the 3D, and this is like the slower, more denser dimension, right? So it takes a while for things to catch up, which, you know, we also have other videos where we talk about just kind of staying in alignment, not allowing the 3D to deceive you, where you feel like things aren't working because you don't see immediate results, okay? Because it takes a little bit. But basically, yeah, so it's not like you necessarily making anything up. You might feel like you have this imaginary scene that you're pulling from, but in actuality, it's not imaginary because it already exists in the 5D and you're just actually pulling from that record, if that makes sense, or that book. I don't know. But anyway, but yeah, so it's very specific language. So we're going to get into some of the examples of that language and how you could use it. But I think it's just really fascinating stuff, you guys. And I'm always loving to share, like I say, the tips and tricks and things that, you know, I find out about or I learned about. I love sharing that with you guys. But yeah, so some of that language, like I remember the relief I felt when XYZ was resolved. I remember calling so-and-so and being so excited to share the news that I could barely like get it out. I was so excited. And now remembering back 6 months, a year later, it still seems unbelievable. I'm still so blessed and thankful. Still seems unbelievable. I remember my first day in the role and just how I felt. Everything just felt so surreal. And I'm like, wow, like this is my new position. I remember thinking to myself, wow, so this is what it feels like. And, you know, again, you guys, it's not necessarily about you necessarily tricking your subconscious into believing things that are not. It's that it actually, you know, within the quantum field, the fifth dimension, all of these different scenarios actually do exist. So it's really you aligning and pulling down, even though you may think that this is like a genuine creative thought or supposedly it's actually you pulling down from that fifth dimensional field. Okay, so it's not as unique as you think it is, but it's more so you pulling down from that. Okay, and remembering from that space. So, but yeah, but you guys, definitely let me know if you guys have tried it out. If you do try it out, you know, like I say, we're all on this journey together. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is short and sweet, but I wanted to get more into like the granular specifics when it comes to, you know, talking about like the actual language that's used in that whole like time collapse, manifestation time collapse technique. Okay. But love you guys. Give this video a big old thumbs up if you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave lots of comments down below. I always say that a comment that you leave might actually be very helpful and useful to the next person that comes along and reads it. It might be divine timing. But I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.